The quiet choice that changed everything. It was a rainy Monday in San Francisco. The sky hung low, gray and heavy, like it was carrying secrets it didn't want to share. Water streaked the windows of the overcrowded bus number 22 as it crawled through the soaked streets. People huddled together, damp jackets brushing, the silence broken only by the soft drone of the engine and the occasional cough. In the back corner, near the window, sat Sundar Pichai, his laptop bag on his lap, a quiet expression on his face. Sundar wasn't the kind of person most people recognized on the street. Not back then. He dressed simply clean shirt, worn jeans, shoes that had seen more airports than sidewalks. To the passengers crammed beside him, he was just another tired man heading to work. No one could guess he was already deep in the heart of one of the world's most powerful tech companies. He preferred it that way, low profile. No fuss. He was lost in thought, going over a presentation in his mind, when the bus jerked to a halt. The door hissed open, and a woman stepped on. She was in her 30s, wrapped in a light sweater far too thin for the cold day. Her face looked pale, but what stood out most was the clear curve of pregnancy beneath her dress. She gripped the metal pole near the front and tried to steady herself as the bus lurched forward again. No one moved. Head stayed down, earbuds in, eyes glued to phones. Sundar looked up. Something tugged at him. It wasn't just that she was pregnant. It was the way her fingers trembled as she held the pole. The way she winced slightly, as if she was used to holding pain in silence. He stood up, quickly, but without drawing attention. He gently tapped the man sitting beside him, nodded toward the woman, and offered his own seat. The man shrugged and stayed seated. Sundar didn't hesitate. He stepped into the aisle, made eye contact with the woman, and gave a quiet nod. She hesitated at first, like she wasn't used to kindness without strings. But then she smiled, just a little, and took the seat he gave up. Sundar grabbed the overhead bar and steadied himself. The ride wasn't long, but he noticed. She kept glancing up at him. Something passed between them. Not words, not a full story, just a flicker of connection. She looked like someone who had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Truly seen. As the bus rattled forward, Sundar thought about his own mother. He remembered her standing in long ration lines back in Chennai, how she used to carry him on. Her hip, sweat beading on her forehead, never once complaining. He remembered the dignity in her silence, the strength in her kindness. That memory stayed with him as the bus reached his stop. He nodded again to the woman, then stepped off into the rain. He didn't expect to see her again. It was just a moment, a simple gesture, something that felt right. He thought that was the end of it, but it was, as single quotes teed out 3 days later. In a sleek glass building on the other side of the city, Sundar walked into a room where everything was about to change. The company was preparing a major internal presentation, a new product proposal, something big. He was scheduled to present in front of several executives and a mysterious new investor, someone from outside the usual circle. He entered the conference room with calm confidence, his slides ready, his thoughts organized. But as the room filled, he noticed a woman enter quietly and take a seat near the back. She wore a sharp blazer this time. Her hair was tied back neatly, her presence subtle but strong. It took him a second. Then it hit him. It was her. The woman from the bus. His heart skipped. Not because of fear or surprise, but because he realized in that moment, this wasn't coincidence. There was something more going on. She caught his eye, and for a split second, her face softened into the same small smile she gave him on the bus. He didn't know her name, didn't know why she was there, but her presence shifted something in the air. The presentation began, and Sundar launched into his ideas with clarity and precision. As he spoke, he could feel her watching. Not with the eyes of a stranger, but with the gaze of someone who already knew something about him that the others didn't. After the meeting ended, the executives murmured among themselves. There were nods, hushed comments, a sense of approval. But it was the woman who approached him. "You probably don't remember me," she said quietly. extending her hand. I do, he replied simply. The bus, she smiled again, this time with warmth that reached her eyes. Thank you, she said. You have no idea what that meant to me, or what it saved me from that day. He didn't understand. Not fully. But before he could ask more, another executive came up and pulled her away for another conversation. Later that evening, Sundar received an email from the company's CEO. Short to the point. Great job today. You made an impression on someone important. Expect a call. That call came the next morning, and what he learned on that call would not only surprise him, it would open a door that would change the entire direction of his life. Asterisk, name, a door, and an old wound morning after the meeting felt different. The air outside was brisk, but it wasn't the weather that sent a chill through Sundar as he waited in his kitchen for the kettle to whistle. Something about the woman from the bus now sitting in that meeting, now part of a mysterious opportunity, was pressing against the edge of his thoughts like a question he didn't know how to ask. He didn't even know her name, but the email had been clear. Expect a call. And the call came not from someone in the company, but from a private number. Sundar hesitated just a second before picking up, already dressed in a simple blue shirt and dark trousers, already preparing for a normal day that would now be anything. But, hello, this is Sundar. There was a pause, and then the familiar voice spoke, softer than he remembered from the bus, but firmer than it had been in the meeting. Hello, Sundar. This is Anita. The name landed like a soft knock on a locked door. It was the first piece of a puzzle he hadn't realized he was trying to solve. Anita. He repeated gently and then waited. You probably have questions, she said. But I'd like to ask you something first. He stayed quiet. Why? Did you give me your seat that day? Her question wasn't challenging, just curious. Like she truly wanted to understand. Sundar thought for a moment, letting the steam from his tea fog the kitchen window. You look tired, he said. And no one else moved. It didn't feel right to stay sitting. Anita didn't answer right away when she spoke again. Her voice was different, more open, more vulnerable. I had just come from the doctor. I was told that my pregnancy was at risk. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even my partner. I was in pain, physically, but mostly emotionally. When you gave me that seat, I was about to collapse. You didn't just offer kindness. You gave me a moment to breathe. He hadn't known. Of course he hadn't. It was just a small choice. One of hundreds he made every day. But now he understood why she'd looked at him the way she did. Not like a stranger. More like a witness to something she hadn't expected anyone to see. Thank you, she said again. You don't owe me anything, he replied. That's where you're wrong, she said. Because that moment changed everything. And now, I want to offer you something in return. Sundar felt his pulse pick up slightly. What is it? Do you know who I am? She asked. He was quiet. I know your name now. I'm the founder of a venture fund, she said. A private one. We don't advertise. We don't do public rounds. We invest in people, not just products. And that day on the bus told me everything I needed to know about you. Not your resume, not your title, your character. He didn't speak. His mind was still catching up. I've looked into your work, she continued. You're doing incredible things at Google. But I think you're still holding back. He almost laughed. Not out of humor, but surprise. Holding back? Yes, she said. I think you have something bigger inside you. A vision you haven't shared with anyone yet. I want to help you build it. He leaned against the wall, the tea forgotten. Her words didn't feel like flattery. They felt like a challenge. Like someone had just unlocked a part of him he hadn't dared to open. I want you to meet someone, she said. Tonight, private dinner. Just the three of us. Someone you probably never thought you'd get to sit across from. He didn't ask who. Part of him didn't want to know until he got there. He agreed. And that night, he arrived at a quiet restaurant tucked away in the Marina District. No sign. Just a red door and warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. Anita greeted him with that same quiet grace. this time in a navy dress and a simple necklace that caught the candlelight. We're led to a private room. Sundar noticed the small things. No music, soft chairs, a single table already set for three. Anita smiled as he sat down. He'll be here shortly, she said. In the meantime, I want to tell you something. Sundar listened. When I was 16, she began, I lived in a shelter with my mother. She worked night shifts, cleaning offices while I studied during the day. We had no money, no safety, but we had dignity. One night, a stranger gave us a place to sleep. Just one night. No expectations, and that act saved us. It gave us just enough strength to keep going. That stranger never knew what he gave us. She looked him in the eye. Asterisk, you remind me of him. Sundar didn't know what to say. He felt humbled, yes, but also unsure if he deserved such comparison. He'd only stood up on a bus stop just then. The door opened. Asterisk. A tall man stepped in, wearing a simple black coat and a watch Sundar recognized from press photos. His heart froze for a second. He wasn't easily starstruck, but this man wasn't just anyone. It was the CEO of one of the largest investment firms in Silicon Valley. He shook Sundar's hand, then sat down like they were old friends. Anita tells me you're the real deal, he said. We're looking for someone like you. Sundar blinked. Someone like me, ... So what? The CEO smiled, but it wasn't a business smile. It was the kind that held secrets behind it. We're building something, off-grid, no press, no shareholders. A think tank of sorts. Something that doesn't answer to markets, only to vision. Why me? Sundar asked, not Anita answered for him. Because you still believe in people. And the world needs more builders like that. The dinner went long. 3 hours of conversation, ideas, questions, and more than a few moments of silence as Sundar absorbed what they were offering. It wasn't just money. It was freedom. Creative freedom, moral freedom, a chance to start something that could change everything, but without losing his soul in the process. As he walked home that night, the streets were quieter. The rain had stopped. His phone buzzed with messages he ignored. In his mind, he kept replaying what Anita had said. You remind me of him. But what he didn't know yet, what none of them knew, was that the past he thought he'd left behind in India was already catching up to him. And when it arrived, it would threaten everything he was about to build. Asterisk, the letter from Chennai. Sundar woke the next morning. The city outside his window felt unfamiliar. He had walked these streets for years, drank the same brand of tea, stood under the same slow showerhead while the day brewed itself around him. But today the air was heavier. The offer from Anita and the unnamed think tank had rewired something inside him. It wasn't just about his career anymore. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down into a new life. With no way to see the ground below, he dressed slowly, moving through his apartment like a man searching for something he didn't know he had lost. He hadn't responded to the follow-up email from Anita yet. She hadn't pressured him either. That was part of what made her so different. She waited, trusted, and now, for the first time in years, Sundar felt like someone was offering him a space not to prove himself, but to become something more than he was. As he stirred sugar into his tea, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an old friend in Chennai, Rajiv. They hadn't spoken much in years, life pulling them in different directions, but Sundar still remembered the smell of Rajiv's mother's cooking, the sound of their school shoes slapping, wet pavement in monsoon season, the laughter of two boys who thought they would never be apart. The message was short. Call me, now. Something's happened. His stomach dropped. Sundar stepped into the bedroom, sat down on the edge of the bed, and dialed. Rajiv picked up on the second ring. His voice was low and tense. Your mother's house was broken into. Sundar froze. His voice caught in his throat before he managed to say, is she okay? Is she shaken? But she's okay. They didn't take anything valuable. Not money. Not jewelry. Just ... Some old papers. Documents. It's strange. What kind of documents? Sundar asked. Not sure. Your mom still too upset to talk clearly, but she mentioned the file. Something your father left behind before he died. She said it was sealed. Sundar sat in silence. The memory of his father's face flickered across his mind-sharp cheekbones. Quiet voice, always scribbling in a notebook with ink-stained fingers. He'd worked as an electrical engineer, known for fixing anything broken, from radios to rooftop antennas. But toward the end of his life, he'd withdrawn, grown quiet, like he was carrying a weight no one else could see. I'll call her. Sundar said, "Thank you, Rajiv." After they hung up, Sundar called his mother. Her voice trembled when she answered, more from emotion than fear. "Amma," he said gently, "I am here." "They came at night," she said. "Broke the window near the back. I was already asleep. They didn't touch the money box. Not the gold bangles either. But the file, Sundar ... They opened the cabinet and took the red file." "What was in it?" "I don't know," she whispered. "Your father never told me. Only said that if something happened to him, to give it to you. He sealed it, tied it with string." I never looked. Sundar closed his eyes. Suddenly, the offer from the think tank, the mysterious dinner, the woman. On the bus, everything felt strangely connected to this moment. Like threads being pulled from opposite corners of his life were finally meeting in the center. "Do you remember what the file said on the outside?" "Yes." There was a pause. "Yes," she said. "It said only this project, Surya." The words hit him like a shockwave. Project Surya. The name stirred something deep, a memory he couldn't fully place. He had heard it before once, as a teenager, passing by the room where his father had kept his old lab notes. Back then, he hadn't asked. He'd assumed it was just another circuit diagram. Another unfinished dream dot, but now someone had broken into his childhood home to take it. His first instinct was to book a flight home. But something held him back. Instead, he called Anita. She picked up instantly. It was early, but her voice sounded awake. Alert. "I was about to call you." She sighed. "I have news." "I do too," he said. And then, without wasting time, he told her everything. About the break-in, about the missing file, about Project Surya. She didn't speak for a long moment. "I've heard that name before," she said. "Finally, years ago, during my time consulting in India. But it wasn't public. It was whispered. Hidden." "What was it?" he asked. "I don't know. But whatever it was, it scared some very powerful people." Sundar felt his breath catch. "Do you think this has something to do with your offer?" "Maybe not directly," she said. "But you need to understand something. Once you step into this new world, the one we're offering, it's not like the corporate one. This is deeper, older, full of things people tried to bury. And they don't like it when those things start to resurface." He stood up, pacing. "Now, what do I do?" "Come with me," she said. "I'm flying out to Singapore tomorrow. We have a contact there. Someone who once worked with your father." He stopped pacing. "What?" "Yes. I didn't know until this morning. He emailed me after seeing your name on the list of our new collaborators. He recognized it, said your father saved his life once, but he wouldn't write more in the message. Only that he wants to speak in person, and that it's urgent." Everything in Sundar's world tilted. His father had died without fanfare. Buried quietly, his genius mostly unknown outside their small neighborhood. And now, halfway across the world, someone claimed to owe him their life. It felt surreal. Impossible. Why did my father never tell me? He whispered. Anita's voice was soft. "Maybe he was protecting you." There was a long silence between them. Not empty, but full. Filled with everything neither of them knew how to say. "Book the flight," he said. "Already done," she replied. As he hung up, Sundar looked around his apartment. The books, the clean desk, the tidy life he had built, everything felt too small for the storm now gathering around him. He reached into his drawer, pulled out the one photo he still had of his father, and stared at it. "What were you hiding?" He whispered. He didn't know it yet. But Project Surya was not just a scientific project on it. was a secret that could shake governments. And his father had left it in his care without ever saying a word. Asterisk, the man in Singapore. Flight to Singapore was long, nearly 17 hours with a brief layover in Tokyo. Sundar didn't sleep. Not a single minute. Not because he was nervous. He'd taken hundreds of international flights before, but because something inside him had shifted since the call with his mother. It wasn't just the missing file. It wasn't even the name, Project Surya. It was the sudden realization that the man he had loved and respected all his life, his quiet father, had been someone else entirely. Someone with secrets. He sat by the window, watching clouds pass like silent witnesses, while his thoughts circled endlessly. The sound of the engines was constant, but inside his mind, it was drowned by memories. The way his father used to hum when he worked. The way he covered his notebooks with layers of tape and string, as if protecting something sacred. The way he used to pause just a second too long before answering certain questions. Sundar always assumed his father's life was modest, unremarkable. He had worked at a local technology firm in Chennai, made repairs to household radios and early TVs when money was tight, and brought home boxes of parts that he would tinker with late into the night. He had never traveled, never boasted, never hinted at anything greater. But now, a man in Singapore claimed his father had saved his life, and someone had broken into their house in India to steal his father's sealed file. Anita sat one row ahead of Sundar on the plane, typing occasionally on a thin laptop, but mostly reading. She didn't speak much, sensing that Sundar needed space. He appreciated that. She had an unspoken understanding of silence, when to offer it and when to break it. They landed just after sunset, and the city welcomed them with humid air and glowing towers. Singapore looked like the future, the kind of future his father used to dream about, but never got to see. Their contact was waiting at a private meeting space near the Marina Bay, in a low-rise building sandwiched between two tall glass giants. The security at the entrance was tight. A man in a dark suit checked their names on a tablet, nodded silently, and escorted them inside without a word. The room they entered was not what Sundar expected. No computers, no screens. Just a round wooden table, 3 chairs, and walls lined with books, real ones, with spines and aging pages. In the center of the table sat an old man with silver hair, skin like dry parchment, and eyes that seemed to look directly into the past. He stood slowly as they entered. His hands trembled slightly, but his posture was upright, almost formal. He wore a simple white shirt and beige slacks. Nothing about him said scientist or spy or insider. Yet Sundar felt something heavy settle in his chest as their eyes met. "You are son." The man said quietly. Sundar nodded. "Yes." The old man gestured to the seat across from him. "Please, sit." They did. Anita introduced him. "This is Dr. Mahesh Iyer. He worked with your father in the early 90s, briefly, but what they built together, it was years ahead of its time." Sundar leaned in, his hands clasped tightly on the table. "What was Project Surya?" Mahesh closed his eyes for a moment, as if reaching for a memory locked away behind too many years. "Your father was a visionary," he began. "He had an idea that the world wasn't ready for. Imagine this, a decentralized energy system that could bring clean, free power to every rural village in India. No grid, no bureaucracy, just light built from the sun. That was the heart of Project Surya, and it worked." Sundar stared at him. "What do you mean, it worked?" "I mean," Mahesh said slowly, "we tested it. We built a prototype in a small village outside Madurai. No one knew. We worked quietly, under a different name. And one night, we turned it on. An entire village lit up, powered by nothing but sunlight and a single converter the size of a briefcase." "Why didn't it go public?" Sundar asked. Mahesh laughed, bitter and low. "Because it threatened the wrong people, oil companies, grid monopolies, government contracts. The moment they found out, they shut us down. They didn't even come themselves. They sent men, not official, not polite, just quiet threats. And one day, your father disappeared from the lab. Sundar felt a cold wave spread through him. He never told me, he said. He wouldn't, Mahesh replied. He wanted to protect you. Protect your mother. He destroyed the main plans, but he kept the core formula. Locked it away. In the file they just stole, Sundar whispered. Mahesh nodded. They'd been watching, waiting, and now that your name is rising, they must believe you have access to the formula. But I don't, Sundar said. Are you sure? Mahesh asked gently. Because your father was careful. He left breadcrumbs, hidden in the most ordinary places, perhaps even in memories you've forgotten. For a long moment, Sundar couldn't speak. Anita reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook aged, bound with a leather strap. We found this in the Foundation's archive, she said. Your father sent it anonymously to one of our early donors years ago. They never understood it. But I think it's for you. Sundar took it slowly. It was covered in neat, faded handwriting. His father's handwriting. As he flipped through the pages, something strange happened. Numbers, diagrams, small sketches, nothing dramatic. But near the center, he found a line, written in Tamil, one he hadn't heard since he was a boy. When the light is buried, the answer lives in the dark. It didn't make sense, and yet it stirred something in him, a faint memory. Him as a boy digging in the backyard, his father handing him an old metal box, locking it and saying, someday you'll need this. A locked box. He hadn't thought about it in 20 years. I need to go back to Chennai. He said. Anita looked at him, then at Mahesh. No one disagreed, but Mahesh's expression had shifted. You must be careful, he said. They're watching now. If they know you're going back, they may not wait to act. Who are they? Sundar asked. Mahesh hesitated. They call themselves Ritra, he said softly. An old name from mythology. The one who blocked the rivers. The one who hoards the light. Are you saying this is a group? Sundar asked. A network, Mahesh said. Not visible. Not traceable, but very real and very dangerous. Anita leaned in. Then we have to move before they do. Sundar looked down at the notebook in his hands. His heart dying. He had come this far trying to build a better future. But now, to protect it, he would have to return to the past. Asterisk return. To Chennai, and Sundar stepped off the plane in Chennai. The heat hit him like a wave of memory. It wasn't just the air, dense, humid, full of life and dust. It was the smell of the soil, the way the sky felt lower, closer to the rooftops. This city had shaped him, brick by brick, word by word. But now, walking through the old airport, he didn't feel like the same boy who used to ride his bicycle through crowded lanes and stop at the tea stall with 5 rupees in his pocket. Something had changed. Or maybe everything had. He didn't check into a hotel. Instead, he took a prepaid taxi straight to the house where he was born. His mother still lived there alone in the same small home with peeling paint, a broken gate, and a mango tree in the yard that had refused to bear fruit for over a decade. As the car pulled up outside, he saw her silhouette through the curtain waiting. She had probably been standing there for an hour. When she opened the door, neither of them spoke. She simply reached up and touched his face, as if to confirm. He was real. Sundar leaned down and held her. The years between them collapsed. You didn't have to come, she said quietly. I did, he replied. I need to find something. They sat in the living room, the fan spinning slowly overhead, humming a song only time understood. She poured him tea the way she always had. The cups were chipped. The table still had the burn mark from where he once dropped a soldering iron as a teenager. Do you remember the box? He asked finally. She nodded almost immediately. Your father gave it to you when you turned 10. It was small. Silver. He said to keep it hidden. You buried it. In the backyard, Sundar said, under the mango tree. It all came rushing back. He had dug the hole with his own hands, his father standing beside him, holding the box wrapped in cloth. They had said nothing. It had felt like a game at the time. But now, Sundar understood it was a burial, not of A thing, but of an idea. He stepped outside, the heat clinging to his shirt, the soil dry and cracked. The mango tree looked older, thinner, its branches crooked like tired arms. He remembered the exact spot. He picked up the old garden spade from the shed and began digging. The earth gave slowly. Each scoop was a memory, a heartbeat. His hands blistered quickly. He wasn't used to this kind of work anymore, but he didn't stop. The sky darkened above, clouds gathering like witnesses. And then, the sound. Metal against metal. He dropped to his knees and scraped away the remaining dirt. There it was. A silver box. Tarnished, the edges rusting. He pulled it out slowly, as if afraid it might vanish. His mother came outside and watched from the porch, saying nothing. Inside the house. He cleaned the box with a cloth and set it on the table. It had no lock, but the lid was tight. Sundar ran his fingers along the edge, then slowly pried it open. Inside. Wrapped in layers of cloth were several items. A folded paper, a small chip enclosed in plastic, and a keyhole, heavy, with a number etched into it. He unfolded the paper. First, the handwriting was his father's. If you're reading this, then you are not a boy anymore, and the world is ready again. There were pages of notes underneath, formulas, diagrams, something that looked like a map. But it was the chip that drew his eyes. Small, no larger than a coin, but covered in intricate, unfamiliar wiring. His phone buzzed. Anita. Double quotes. I found it, he said when he answered. Good. Now listen carefully. We just intercepted the message. Your name is on it. Where from? Someone inside the group we told you about. Vritra. They know you're in Chennai. How? Sundar asked. We're not sure, she said. But they've activated someone. A tracker. Local. Sundar turned and looked out the window. They're going to come for the box, he said. Yes. And soon, you need to get out of there. I'm not leaving my mother, he said flatly. We're sending a team, she replied. But you have to move. No, he turned to his mother. We're going to Rajiv's house. Asterisk, she nodded. Not asking why. Not asking anything. She trusted him the way she had always trusted his father. They left quietly, with the box wrapped in a blanket and placed inside an old suitcase. No one on the street paid attention. But Sundar had the feeling that someone was watching. Not from the shadows, but from behind closed windows, from alley corners, from places he couldn't see. Rajiv lived on the outskirts of the city, in a more rural area where the air still smelled like firewood, and the nights were filled with the buzz of insects. When they arrived, he opened the door with wide eyes. What's going on? I'll explain later, Sundar said. We just need a few hours. He set the suitcase down and opened the box again, this time showing Rajiv everything. The chip, the notes, the key. Have you seen this before? Sundar asked him. Asterisk. Rajiv's eyes narrowed as he leaned in. This is a prototype. I've worked with hardware like this, but never anything this advanced. My father called it Project Surya. Rajiv's face changed. Recognition, but also fear. That name, I heard it once, years ago. There was a story, a man in a lab outside Madurai. He made something that could change the energy game completely. They said he vanished. Hey, didn't vanish, Sundar said. He came home and buried the future. They worked through the night, scanning the notes, translating what they could. The diagrams were complex but beautiful. They outlined a system that didn't just collect solar energy. It transformed it into a self-replicating source. Capable of powering entire grids from a single origin point. It was more than revolutionary. It was dangerous. And as dawn broke, and the light poured through the windows of Rajiv's house, Sundar understood the truth. His father hadn't been protecting a secret. He had been protecting the world from what might happen if the wrong people got their hands on it. And now, those people were on their way. As they packed up the materials. Rajiv's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. We know where you are. Return the box, or lose everything. Sundar looked at Anita, who was now on a video call through his laptop. They're here, he said. She nodded grimly. We need to disappear for a while. There's a safe house in Sri Lanka. A boat is waiting tonight. What about the prototype? He asked. We'll protect it, but we need to make copies. And we need to decide, do we reveal it or do we let it stay buried? Sundar looked at the chip in his hand. It held the power to light up the world, or burn it down. And the choice now was his asterisk. The choice beneath the light. The boat ride across the Bay of Bengal was rough. The sea roared beneath the hull, rising and falling like it had something to say. Like it was carrying more than just the weight of 2 passengers and a suitcase filled with the world's most dangerous secret. Sundar sat near the edge, the wind slicing across his face, the salt settling on his lips. Beside him, his mother held his hand quietly, wrapped in her old green shawl. Her eyes closed not from fear, but from memory. Anita had arranged everything. The safe house, the boat, the contacts on the Sri Lankan side. She wasn't with them on this journey. She'd gone ahead using her network to spread a trail of digital smoke falls locations, dummy passports, encrypted data transfers. She had told Sundar over a secure call just before they departed, "They're getting desperate. That means we're close." Close to what, though? That was the question. The island came into view at dawn, a silhouette against the golden edge of sky. Coconut trees swayed gently, and for a moment it looked like peace. But Sundar knew better. There was no true peace now, not when what he carried had the power to rewrite everything. They were met by a man named Dev, a quiet engineer, with eyes that missed nothing and a voice that barely rose above a whisper. He took them to a small compound surrounded by thick trees and open fields. Solar panels lined the roof, a quiet irony that didn't escape Sundar. This place was powered by the sun, but nothing like what Project Surya promised inside. The rooms were simple, a long wooden table, maps, screens, and in the center, a workstation built for one purpose: to analyze, decode, and replicate the chip his father had buried decades ago. Anita arrived the next morning. She looked different somehow. Not tired, but sharpened, focused. Her presence filled the room without trying. "We're ready," she said. They gathered around the workstation. Rajiv had joined them the night before, sneaking across the border. Under cover of darkness with backup files in a disguised camera bag. Now, the group sat in silence as Dev inserted the chip into the reader. The screen lit up. Code spilled across it, unlike anything they had seen before. Elegant, layered, encrypted. Yes, but not in the usual way. It was as if Sundar's father had built a system that didn't just process energy, but understood it, adapted to it. "This isn't just a blueprint," Rajiv said softly. "This is a living algorithm. It learns. It responds to light," Dev added, "but it also stores energy in a nonlinear pattern. The more light it receives, the more efficient it becomes. It's alive." Sundar stared at the screen. His father had created not just a power source, but a self-growing system. A new way to think about energy itself. What happens if we release this? He asked. Anita didn't answer right away. "We bypass governments," Rajiv said. "Corporations. Every energy giant in the world. We collapse markets," Dev added, "and save billions of people. But we also paint a target on our backs," Anita said. "A big one. Ritra won't stop. Not now. Not ever." The room fell into silence again, and then Sundar's mother spoke. She had been listening, watching, silent for days. But now she looked at her son with eyes that had seen both hardship and hope, and said something none of them expected. "He didn't bury this because he was afraid," she said. "He buried it because he was waiting. Waiting for the world. To have someone who could carry it, not with pride, but with humility." Sundar looked at her. "You think that's me?" "I think it's already been you," she said, when you stood up on that bus. "When you listened before you spoke. When you chose people over power." He closed his eyes. In his mind, he saw the village his father once lit up. He saw a girl doing homework beneath a lamp powered by the sun. He saw a doctor performing surgery with steady light in a place where generators always failed. He saw the future, and it was not built in boardrooms or behind locked gates. That it was built in moments, quiet ones, not like giving up a seat. Sundar opened his eyes and stood. We release it. He said. Anita nodded slowly. Are you sure? Yes, but not all at once, not on the news. Not online. Village by village. School by school. Quietly. Through the cracks. Not to break the system. To make it unnecessary. That'll take time, Roji said. Then we take our time, Sundar replied. We don't chase power. We give light and we disappear. In the weeks that followed, the work began. They rebuilt the chip, tested it, perfected the algorithm, and then they started distributing the technology not through governments, but through trusted networks, teachers, doctors, rural engineers, people who didn't wear suits but carried hope in their hands. Meanwhile, Fritz researched. But every time they came close, all they found were empty rooms and disappearing trails, because Sundar had become what his father had once been, an invisible architect of change. And years later, in a small village in Uganda, a young boy switched on a light in his home for the first time. He looked up at his mother, eyes wide. Where did the light come from? He asked Dot, and she smiled and said, From someone who believed you deserved it.